I was a global warming skeptic. Um, I mean, a mere 2 degree C temperature rise, which is just over 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit, is gonna wreck the planet. I mean, seriously? I mean, temperatures can vary 40 to 60 degrees in a single day. I mean, what's another 3.5 degrees gonna do? Well, I thought the whole thing was a lot of hogwash, and that's why I left it for years. When I first began to suspect that there just might be something to this global warming thing, I chose to not take somebody else's word for it. So, in figuring this out for myself, I devoted 10,000 hours of my life over a 3.5 year period to studying this thing and deciphering, truth from false, and what's real, what's just what's not good, and what's leading us astray. And in doing this, I actually leaned on my own engineering fundamentals, went back to first principles, did my own calculations. And what I found was positively terrifying. The public is grossly misinformed about not only the immediacy and the severity of the global warming problem, they are also equally misinformed about the fact that we have all the technology we need right now to fix it. See, we're fast approaching an ice-free Arctic, something I call the point of no return, wherein we will unleash a methane-driven runaway global warming sequence that will, by the middle of the next century or earlier, result in peak summer temperatures on much of the planet being between 125 and 144 degrees, even up to 157 in some areas. Our own grandchildren will witness the death of 90% of the world's population and the end of civilization as we know it. And if nothing changes, we could cross this point of no return as early as 2025. This devastation does not have to happen. We already have all the technology we need to be able to stop this thing in its tracks and not see this horrible end result. In fact, we can create a sustainable civilization that is fully renewable, non-intrusive, and non-polluting, and that has virtually unlimited capacity for us to enjoy whatever we want to do in our lives. And furthermore, we can do this without having to give up our current lifestyle. This renewable civilization will look very much like what we have today. There just won't be any earth-wrecking emissions from it. You can live where you want, in the style you want, drive what you want, go where you want, when you want. All we have to do to make that a reality is just do it. But unfortunately, currently we're not doing 5% of what needs to be done to fix this thing. We plod along oblivious to the crisis we're in. We think we've got all the time in the world and that we'll let our children or grandchildren fix it someday. What we really need to be doing is mounting an all-out World War II level of effort in stopping global warming before it stops us. It needs to be all hands on deck with all available manpower, using all available resources for as long as it takes. People wonder, well, what can I do? Well, there's the obvious things like recycling, planting trees, putting up solar panels, driving more fuel-efficient cars, and so on. And we need to be doing these, but these by themselves are not enough. We also need to become active. If we're going to stop global warming, we need to be active, because complacency won't cut it. Beyond this, the most important thing we must do, however, is to raise our level of thinking. Albert Einstein said that the problems that exist in the world today cannot be solved by the level of thinking that created them. Raising our level of thinking requires us to wake up from the media-induced trance most people have been subjected to and succumbed to. We are being inundated by a relentless onslaught of deception, half-truths, equivocations, and misrepresentations about the global warming problem. And this deluge is being perpetrated by the entrenched power structure through the collusion of mainstream media, big business, and big government. Of equal concern, however, is that this widespread deception is being aided and abetted by the academic and scientific communities. The crime here is not that they make false statements. Their crime is that they're not saying enough. They are careful not to say, they withhold critical information that aids the perpetrators down the path of deception. See, in my view, the scientists are scared to death, but they're careful not to say too much because they're afraid for their grants, their jobs, and their pensions. And I get it. But my question is, at what point do the lives of your own children become more important and a higher priority than your own personal comfort? We need to keep in mind that the earth doesn't care about us. It doesn't care about our politics, our economics, or our social issues. The earth doesn't negotiate. If we're foolish enough to violate the earth's physics, it is us, or more precisely, our children and grandchildren, who will suffer the consequences. I wrote my book for the general public in terms that would make the topic easy to understand. I've had more than one reader tell me that this was the one book on global warming they'd always been looking for, but thought they would never find. After reading my book, people have told me, they said, God, I see the world differently now. And you've inspired me to action. So if anything I've said here resonates with you, I would urge you to read my book. It's a message of hope that we can actually overcome this developing planetary catastrophe. You deserve that hope. Your children deserve that hope. We're faced with a civilization-ending crisis. We also have the means to be able to avert it if we act soon enough. See, politicians are like wind vanes. They don't create political will, they simply respond to it. It's up to us, you and me, to create the collective will that will finally force the politicians and the industrialists into the action necessary to stop global warming. This is the only home we've got, folks. I have 2 grandchildren. I want to leave this planet in a better shape than it was when I got here, so that they can enjoy the same beautiful world I've been able to in my life. We can do this, but we have to do it. Not them, not the next several generations, us right now. Thank you. That's what I've been doing.